Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Kerbal Space Program. Excuse me as I adjust the microphone. Today, we have an ambitious goal. Pretty much three things. First is to put a probe in moon orbit. Second is to land a probe on the moon, which will be much more challenging. And third is to manage all of our stages so that we don't leave any debris in space, which probably is not the biggest deal, but in doing the spaceflight simulations, if you're not careful with what you do with your various stages, you can end up with a lot of junk in space. So this is basically a three-stage rocket. This first stage right here, which is actually goes up to here. Everything from here on up will get us out of the atmosphere and up to our apoapsis up to around 100,000 or so. The second stage, which is pretty much this right here, three rockets, will get us out to the moon orbit basically. And then our final stage right here will clean up the orbit so that we can orbit Kerbin while waiting to rendezvous with the moon, and also for the deceleration burn at the moon itself. And this stage also serves as the orbiting probe. I'll zoom in a little bit. Yeah, I've zoomed in too far. You can see there's some scientific instruments that I've strapped to the outside of this stage. So that's going to be the probe. And then we have a landing probe, and actually I want to move this antenna while we're here. Yes, actually right here is optimal. We have a landing probe right here for landing on the moon itself. And in testing, this covers up the little solar panel. I actually have two solar panels on here. One fixed to the top and then one deployable on the side. The moon doesn't have any atmosphere, so to speak of, so this should be safe, but if I can land it safely, it should be okay to deploy it, but I have another one. And also, just to give you some details, I have some landing lights on here which have proven to be very useful, and actually yes. I need to move this bad boy down. There. Yep. No. Gosh darn it. This is why I don't build rockets on here, because it's somewhat dodgy. Alright. So, right there. That should be good. Is that good? I think that's good. Okay. Alright, and then right here, so this is the orbiting stage. We have a couple solar panels, some navigation lights, and what I like to do is put these on to illuminate the fins. As we're still zoomed in too far, to illuminate the fins, to help in navigating with the ship, because when you're on the dark side of a planet, it is really, really dark. So that's pretty much the rocket. So it's a pretty big rocket. I'd say this is pretty much as tall as you can go without encountering some construction issues. I'm sure there's a better way to do it. But anyway, so I put some struts right here. I think you saw it in the previous one for stability. Now, just to let you in on a secret, let's go back out and go to here. And if you see, well, actually, I've done a couple experiments. You see I have some rocket bits in Kerbal orbit. Now, one of the things I was trying was doing, well, actually, one of the things I'd like to try is doing aerobraking with the rockets, where you send them through the atmosphere, and that should slow them down and then eventually cause them to basically crash into the planet. So, in theory, this goes down to about 45,000 meters. And you can see it's climbing out of the atmosphere right now, but it's actually still in here. So it should, in theory, be slowing down each orbit. This bit has been here for a while, so I'm not sure what the dealio is. There was two other ones. This is actually bits of the second stage for the rocket that you saw. So there were three pieces, the sides and the middle. And two out of the three have deorbited. This third one's still out here. And then if we go out to the moon, so just to zoom out on the Kerbal system, you can see that the planet has two moons, one called Moon, M-U-N, and the other one called Minimus. So our mission will be to the moon. And we actually have, in one of my practice runs, I was able to get out to the moon. And there's the moon right there. So we're kind of on the dark side. So you can see this is the third stage with the lights on, the solar panels extended, stuff like that. The probe at the top has been detached. So no guarantees this will be successful, but I did want to show you where it is right now. And then can we go to the other one? No. Let us go here and then here. So here is the lander on the moon itself. The orbital lander, I didn't show it. Well, actually, I think you can see it. I didn't call it out, but the orbital lander is out of fuel. So the lander actually has a fair amount of fuel left. I could, in theory, take off with this, although I don't want to because it was hard to land. But the orbiting one does not have any fuel. It's actually completely dry. You use everything up getting into a moon orbit. So just a couple interesting points. Some of the changes I made. You'll see that these little legs don't actually touch the ground, so it's sitting on its engine. So in landing, these actually help to keep from tipping over, I think, but they don't actually touch the ground. So that's why I moved them down a wee bit. You can see if I moved it all the way down to where this warning stripe is, then they should be on the ground, maybe along with the engine. And then I moved the antenna over because you've noticed that it covers up the solar panel. I think it works. This doesn't appear to block the light, which is kind of odd. And then you have the scientific instruments. I do have some lights on, so we can turn those on. I use these for landing. If you've ever seen an old British movie called I believe the Dam Busters of World War II, you'll see that they use something similar to this, more sophisticated than what I have, to basically judge their altitude. Because you can see right here, I'm sitting at just over 2,000 meters, so this is a representation of sea level. Not that there's any sea on the moon, but sea level rather than your distance to something solid, which would be nice to have. I don't know if you can have that. Maybe I'm missing it. So I use this to kind of gauge my distance to the actual ground, and also the shadow helps as well. One practice landing I did was in the dark, and that went very, very badly. So you need to land in the light. So I have these lights on, and then I love putting lights on here. So I have these little general illuminating lights for the lander, and you just kind of see. So this is pretty much where I am. There's the sun. I don't think you can see Kerbin from here. So Kerbin's pretty noticeable from here. I don't think it's visible. So anyway, this is fully functioning, as is the one in orbit. I forget. I'll have to look up how long a lunar day and lunar night is. It might be a month for all I know. Since the moon is tidally locked to Earth, and I'm assuming Kerbal's moon is the same, so that it rotates the same speed it revolves, so the day and night might be pretty long. So I put on batteries what I thought would last decently, and I'll drop the resources tab, so you can actually see how much fuel we have, and then the electricity. So I thought this would be a decent amount of battery life, but it's not anywhere close. So going back to the orbiter, let's just go back and check a look at that. Check a look at that. So you can see that this bad boy is totally out of gas. In a couple practice sessions, I ended up, so this is where I ended up, the orbit I ended up with here, which isn't a great orbit. You know, it's not on the plane between Kerbin and the moon, but it's not bad. It's not circular, but again, I don't necessarily care about that. Should Kerbin be visible? Looks like Kerbin should be visible. Although Kerbin might be dark, so we may not be able to see it. So anyway, what was I saying? So anyway, I used up all the fuel on here, all the gas, getting into this orbit. In one try, not with this one, I ended up resorting to the navigational jets, because if you look, it does have a decent amount of monopropellant left. And I ended up switching to docking mode and using that for the braking maneuver because I was out of rocket fuel. So anyway, let us try and launch this bad boy. So we're going to go to... Where are we going? I can't exit out of this view, can I? Go back to the Space Center. And then go to the... So let's go here. So I still got my rocket. Everything looks good. Good, good, good. Also, I tried to, for this, since you're landing on the moon with no atmosphere, a parachute isn't useful. So I tried this with a regular probe engine, a teeny little engine, and no dice. So then I put a lander engine on here, but then I had to put a standard-sized fuel tank. So this whole body right here, here's the probe core up here. This whole thing right here is a fuel tank, and then here is the landing engine, which is plenty powerful for a teeny little ship like this. So let's go launch this bad boy. Hey everybody, we are on the launching pad for a night launch. So let's turn the lights on. Yeah, it's pretty bright. Looks pretty bright to me. Anyway, so we're for a night launch. We'll see how this goes. I beefed up the rocket a little bit with a ring of solid rocket boosters on the first stage and then a third outboard engine on the second stage to hopefully give us a bit more fuel. So let us stabilize, turn on our stabilizers, throttle up, and take off. Light this candle. So this is really my first night launch, so let's throttle down so we don't overheat the main engine. I know the solid rocket boosters will cook the main engine, the outboard engines a little bit down here, but hopefully nothing catastrophic. That would be bad. Is that the moon or the sun rising over there? Jettison those bad boys. There they go. I don't even know if I know what that is. Maybe that's just a feature. Looks like the sun is over there, unless that is just sky gauge. You can see the constellation, not constellation, the galaxy. The Kerbal galaxy up above. So one of the things I learned between this mission and the last one is doing a gravity turn. Between 10,000 and 15,000 meters, you want to turn slightly in the direction of your orbit, and then the planet's gravity will help establish your orbit. So I will be doing that. Around 12,000 feet or so. And I'm just going to try and burn for a lunar orbit. One of the things I've been experimenting with is how to get in. Let's tip over a wee smidgen. Seems good. Seems good. Alright, and then you can kind of see our angle in the rocket trail. It's kind of neat, isn't it? So I'll need to turn on my solar panels when I get into space. That is an important thing to do. What was I saying? So one of the things I've been experimenting with is getting to the moon without leaving junk in space, and I'm not entirely sure I know how the best way to do it. So if anybody has an idea, let me know. And then the main engine is burned out, so we're going to throttle the outboards up to full until they burn out. Then we're going to see how we're looking. I've also been running into some instability when I switch from the first stage to the second stage, so I'm probably going to turn on my RCS and throttle down a little bit to hopefully keep things from spiraling out of control. So far so good. Turn the lights off, doesn't really... Is the sun? Okay, so there's the sun. We're up high enough so that we're lit by the sun. So I'll turn the lights off. The rockets will produce electrical power when they're running. Alright, throttle down and put the RCS on, get a little stability going here. No, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't flip over. And orbit map. So we're relatively on the plane for the moon. You can see the moon over there with the previous mission. We're headed, we have a kind of a south trajectory a little bit, but it's not bad. I don't understand why we're having so much trouble controlling the ship. We should have 3 thrust vectoring engines on here. In fact, let's turn them off. Turn off RCS, recycle the stabilizer. fact, I'll just try and do it manually. I don't need any stinking computers, do I? And right there, that's where we want to be. So I don't know, it doesn't seem like it should be that hard. So let's throw that bad boy back up again. Turn our RCFs back off, because we shouldn't need it. And let's throttle this bad boy back up. So I'm going to just keep throttling, and I'm going to try and push the orbit on the other side out to the moon as best I can. I think that's the most efficient way to do it. But again, then we have the issue with leaving the junk in space. So I don't know. We'll worry about that later. Alright, let's catch up with the Apiosis. I wonder if I just burn it all now and get out as far as possible. I wonder if that's something would be worthwhile. Because again, I'm trying not to leave the second stage in space if I can at all avoid it. So let's just keep burning and see what happens. And actually, let's do a course correction. Maneuver, and I want to bring this up. Yeah, that's pretty much where I want it to be. And then alright, let's worry about that for right now. So what I'm trying to do is flatten out my plane relative to the moon and then also increase my orbit somewhat. So stabilize and throttle back up. Appearance of the periapsis. I do not want it to get too far away from the planet. Let's see how my fuel is looking. Alright. That's fine. Now what if I went out here and then went like this? That gets me out a little bit further. I can just burn all the way out there, and I'm still staying relatively close to the planet. So let's do that. And then when I get out here, I'll clean up my other side of the orbit. So let's go like that. Where are you going? Oh, that's from a previous mission. Okay, so I'm going to burn the stage until it is gone, and then we'll get back to a more reasonable orbit. So let's orient to where we need to be. And speed things up. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Huh. My periapsis is way too high. I didn't want it to do that. Let's close that. Add maneuver. I do this. Alright. So let's go up here. Alright, good, good. Okay, so now I'm going to, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to extend my solar panels before I run out of power. So I did that before, and since, guess what? Hey, there's an electronic device controlling the rocket. If you don't give it electricity, then your rocket becomes unresponsive. Direct sunlight, good. Electrical charge, good. Lights are off. Actually, I can turn that. That's fine. I don't need the little stupid lights. All right, so jettison. There we go. And let us go out here, establish a periapsis, and then on the periapsis swing of the orbit, I'm going to push my apoapsis all the way out there. That is the plan. So we got out to almost 2 million meters. Yes, 2 million meters, which isn't bad for the second stage, certainly. All right, so, and you should be able to see this throttle down, and then there we go. That stage is now active. Go back to the orbit map. Thirteen, 12, 10, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. All right. Let's flip this bad boy around and clean up our orbit a little bit. Going the wrong way. And there we go. 1 minute. I just want to get this just barely out of the planet, because anything here is wasted other than, you know, the fact that I don't want to crash into the planet. So there you go. And you saw how easy and how little thrust that took. So it should be, operations here should be fairly economical. So if I schedule a maneuver there and increase my speed, that's actually not too shabby. And actually, that should be close enough to get captured. So that's all I'm going to do. And you should see the rocket, the second stage and my third stage diverge. I should have excellent fuel, which I do. There we go. I really wish this thing would burn up. So this should not survive this orbit, where mine will skim. And you saw how slight the difference in velocity is, which is pretty darn cool if you ask me. It's coming up in 11 minutes. Might as well orient. So, where are you? You have to guess where the marker is. Should be perhaps over here. There it is. It's down here. All right. There's the marker. And 7 minutes. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And you can see it coming around to our direction of travel because that's where we want to go. And the burn is actually relatively short. It says 1 second. I don't believe it. But you look at the total amount of velocity. It's not much. 1 minute. I'll burn in 30 seconds prior. I'm going to stay on the orbit screen because I want to see what my orbit looks like because I don't entirely trust this. I did not burn when I said I was going to burn, so this will be a little late. And there we go. Periapsis is still good. Alright, so now what we're going to do, and did that other piece of space garbage? Yep, that crashed into the planet. Good. So we're just going to go out. So how close will I be getting to the moon? Let's set the moon as a target. No, I did not want to. There's my other probe. I did not want to do that. Okay. The heck? You know what? You know what? Where did my thing go? I am missing the top of my road. Oh, you know what? This is the second stage. Why the heck am I focused on the second stage? I didn't even know you could do that. I wonder if I can deorbit this. No, I have no control over this because there's no intelligence. Yeah, that's a previous mission. Okay, I was like, what the hell? Alright, excuse that interruption. Now what am I doing? Alright. Before all that nonsense, set the moon as a target. And confirm my preapsis. I'm not going to crash into the stupid planet. And basically, I'm just going to wait. For my probe and the moon to intersect. You see, when I get close to the planet, then it slows down. But you can see how fast I'm moving. So, like, 3+ kilometers a second here. And then out here, let's see how we're doing. So you just see how it's dropping down. To like, so this should go down to like less, around 100. We may have a capture vector. Looks like the moon's gonna... Okay, one more orbit of Kerbin. So what this is saying, not that I'm a KSP authority, is I'm going to go one more orbit of Kerbin, and then I'm going to start to be affected by the moon. The moon's going to take it and change my orbit, and then I'll end up in this orbit around Kerbin. But what I'm going to do during here is break my velocity to establish an orbit with the moon. So that is the plan. You can see how slowly we're moving. So this makes, I think, the aircraft or the spacecraft very susceptible to other influences, which is exactly what we want. So speed that bad boy up. All right. So as you can see, everything, so here comes the moon. Here comes me. And then right around here, right around the preapsis, I'm going to do a braking maneuver to bring my apoapsis into a lunar orbit. I guess you'd call it a lunar orbit, a moonal orbit, rather than this goofy Kerbin orbit. So, getting close, getting close. So you see we're actually going to pass under and I guess in front of the moon. Alright, here we go. So now we are captured, not captured, but we're in a lunar orbit, right? So when this gets to preapsis, I want to do a braking maneuver. So I'm going to actually say, let's do a maneuver here. And then I'll brake, and then I can see exactly how much I need to slow down. So just ignore the purple line. How much I need to slow down to stay in a lunar orbit. There you go. Alright, so this will put us, wow, 2 million out from the moon. So let's bring that bad boy in a little bit. You see the delta V is not that much. Not that much at all. What's my preapsis here? About 600,000. And this is actually, it's almost like a polar orbit of the moon, which probably isn't ideal, but, you know, it's not that bad. Alright, so our burn is in 1 hour, so because we're not moving that fast. Go to our trajectory. You can see our what? You can see that I am out of control. Right here. That, RCS off. Let's check our resources. So we are over 50%. That's good. Plenty of fuel. In fact, this is a much better... I seem to have a YouTube video playing somewhere. So let me hunt that down and kill it. There you go. Okay. Back again. Hopefully that didn't interrupt anything. So you can see that... what was I saying? Our direction of travel isn't that much, and then we have oceans relatively of fuel out here. And this panel should be getting sunlight as well, yeah. So there's actually 4 solar panels. There's 2 on the orbiting module, and there's 2 on the lander. This one's folded up right now. I could unfold it, doesn't really matter. So anyway, let's speed things up. And just a very small amount. You can see once you get away from the massive pull of the planet, how very precise and subtle everything becomes, which is cool. All right, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10. Six, 5, 4, 3, and I want to get this relatively close. So let's burn now. A little early. It's all right. So I'm watching the blue line. The brown line is not important. That's kind of our theoretical Kerbal orbit. The blue line. All right, so now we're captured by the moon. I want to bring this in nice and reasonable. Nice and reasonable. Okay. Alrighty. Look at that. So it's a goofy lunar orbit. Or I should say almost a polar orbit. But as you can see, we are indeed captured by the moon. So that is objective number 2.